streaming. I'm streaming. Hey everybody, welcome to FabFit Friday before I'm going off to Houston. Today I want to share how to finish this neckline. If you've been following along with me, I think I shared these fabrics last week when I was playing with my featherweight, and I'm really excited. I love this fabric. I love the way it came out, and what I want to do is show you the red dress behind me, because that is another version of this dress, and then I'm going to show you I decided to add a godet into the seam of this dress to give it a little bit more fullness, and it adds sort of an interesting asymmetrical hem because it lengthens the hem on the side that you add the godet. So the first thing I want to do is just show you here. All right, so let me show you this. I'm going to wheel this one in closer so you can see. So this is the same dress that I'm wearing, and I think you can see that it's just very streamlined. It's just one piece of fabric. The seam goes from the base of the V. It travels diagonally down, 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 all the way to the hem. And this dress has gotten shorter because I shrunk it. If you remember last year, it has wool in it and I kept washing it. So it did shrink and become, you know, not so long. Hey Sandra, welcome. I'm showing my original 3-seam dress that I made out of this linen wool blend, you know, as a single pattern. And then I wanted to show my new version, and what I'd like you to notice about the new version is I added a godet. So I'm gonna just lower my camera so I can show you. So you can see, I think you can see, like from here down, I added a godet into the seam, and what that did was it gave me some fullness. So if you look at the back now, it's not as snug here across my full hip because of the godet. So if you check out, you know, that, you can see that it's fuller. And then, just slide this over here for a second. I don't know if you can see the hem. The hem is a little bit longer on this side because that's what happens when you add a godet. It actually makes it a little bit longer. So this is, again, my bias dress. I'm going to take it off. I have clothes on underneath. Don't be alarmed. I'm actually rocking my new raglan sleeve top I made a few weeks ago. This is going to be one of my new fall tops. And when I get back from Houston next week, happily, I'm not going to be gone an entire week. So I will be back in time for FabFit Friday next week. So next week, I'm going to show you how to finish. I'm going to finish the wrist and make a cuff with a thumb hole for this top when I get back. So basically, I'm wearing it now because it's cool in my room. And I wanted to wear a shirt underneath this because, you know, this is sleeveless and it's a little chilly here in Connecticut today. And then for some reason, I felt like I needed my fan. So I have my fan going as well. So it's a little nippy in my room. But basically, you know, this was the shirt that I worked on a few weeks ago. And I really love it because I feel like this fabric, you know, like I'm not even wearing fabric. So next week, I'll show you how to do the cuff. And it's going to be the kind of thumb hole cuff that's not just a hole in the seam. It's actually a constructed opening for your thumb, which I think is a little bit nicer than just leaving a seam in the underarm seam of the sleeve. So that's what I'm showing you guys next week when I get back from Houston. So Monday, when I get to Houston, I am teaching my bias class how to make a bias sleeveless top from a knit sloper. So I'll be wearing this dress because this dress is another design that you can make from, you could make from that master pattern once you get that to fit you. So what I want to do today, let me just get my cords out of my way here. So what I want to do here is I want to show you the design of this dress makes it really easy to finish the neckline. So you can see here's my neckline, and what I did was I took out the seam, about an inch from the base of the neckline, and I've cut myself some bias strips here, and I think I'm gonna have to sew. I'm gonna leave the two longer strips to finish the armholes. So I'm gonna use these two shorter strips to finish the neckline. I'm gonna sew them together. So the first thing is we're gonna sew them together, and then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna press them. And I'm just going to get my little pressing surface ready here. Well, actually, what I really need to do is get my iron going. So one of my improvements in my studio here is I've cleaned the top of my cutting table, and I'm not going to be leaving stuff stacked all over my table, so I can get full benefit from my 4x8 table. So my iron is no longer sitting right on my table. So I apologize for not kind of getting that set up ahead of time, but basically we're ready now. Okay, so what we're gonna do, hey Victoria, oh good. Okay, Victoria says, just joined from Virginia, and your pants fitting is doing what you expect it to be doing. I think that is wonderful news. I just sent out a newsletter today advertising the my last pants fitting adventure of the year. So if anybody's interested in that, there are 4 spots left, and I am definitely having it. I'm really excited. Smaller groups are very exciting for me sometimes because, I can really slow down with people when there's only, less than 10 people. So I have 7 now, 6 students plus a very good friend coming to this workshop. So it's a really nice number right now. So if anybody would like to join the pants fitting class in November, it is on my website at J Stern Designs under upcoming workshops. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description below after. But I'm happy to hear that your pants fitting's going nicely, Victoria. So what I'm going to do here is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my sewing machine over, and I'm going to sew my strips together, and I kind of want to make sure we're really have a good view here. So whenever I sew bias strips together, I sew them on the bias direction. So I crisscross them like this, and let's look at both ends here. I don't want an abrupt, I think this is a better place to sew them together because the colors are similar. Because over here, there was a big difference between light and dark. So I'm going to go on this side. I'm going to lay one horizontally like this. Then I'm going to, lay the other one, the other darker side like this. Okay, and you can see what we're going to do to sew these together is we're going to sew from this corner down to this corner across the strip like this, and that's going to give us a sort of a bias. It's going to give us a seam on the 45-degree angle, which I feel like is less noticeable when you're sewing, when you're putting a neck finish on. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one pin here like this. And what we're going to do is I am literally going to Oh, let me change my thread color. I have black in there right now. Let me just switch over to sort of a cream colored. Let me just get this out of here. Let me get my black thread out of there. All right, so if anybody is coming to the Houston Quilt Festival, I look forward to seeing you. This year I'm teaching Monday and Tuesday, so technically I'm going to be at the festival during the market period, which means the beginning of the Houston Quilt Festival is Quilt Market, and that's for business owners, you know, sewing stores, that kind of stuff. So that's when I'm going to actually be there this time. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm teaching my bias class on Monday, and then I'm teaching my efficient workflow for pants fitting class in the afternoon, which I taught at PatternCon, and that went really, really well. I enjoyed that. So that's Monday. And then Tuesday, I am teaching leggings with pockets, and I am teaching my skirt class. So it's going to be a really fun event for me. Those are 4 really nice classes. I enjoy teaching, so it's going to be lots of fun. All right, so getting back to this, I am going to be sewing from here to here, and I'm just going to go straight down. If you're new to this method, you certainly can draw yourself a chalk line. I'm going to eyeball it here. So I'm just basically going to sew straight down to here. Now see what that gives us is, that gives us a nice diagonal. I'm going to trim this to 1/4 inch, like this. Okay. And then I'm going to open it up, and you can see it gives like a nice sort of diagonal seam there, which I like. And notice my strip is nice and stretchy. I cut it on the bias. So the next step is I'm going to grab my little, I'm just going to use one of these, one of my Aliso pressing mats, and I'm literally just going to press my seam allowances open here. Just to reduce the bulk. Okay, so that's how that looks. Okay, so it's a nice clean way to sew strips together. All right, so the next step, and this is why I love this dress. This dress is so easy to sew together because we don't have to even worry about what the length of the neckline is, because we're going to start and finish at the center front of the neckline. And because I've been wearing this, okay, I've been wearing this neckline, and I've been stretching it out a little bit. So let me just make this a little less bright maybe. And I'm gonna, okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give it some steam because I have been stretching it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just give it a little bit of steam, just to steam it back into shape here. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our strip, and I am gonna put it right sides together. So I think I'm gonna sew inside the circle. So this dress is inside out right now. So we're gonna start on this side. So this is the center front right here. This is the tip of the V. So what I'm gonna do is I'm literally gonna take my thing, and I'm going to line it up like this so that I'm starting right at that center front. Like this. I want to kind of show you what I'm doing here. So, okay, so here is, this is the very end of the neckline, and there's a little 1/4 inch seam where I sewed it at the neckline. I want to make sure I extend past that. And actually, just to make it easier to see what this end is doing, I'm going to cut off this bias edge here so I can just have it have an exact stopping point. I want to make sure this end, when I fold it around, will hang off the edge, this lower end. So I'm going to put it like this, and I'm just going to put one pin here like this, and then I'm going to bring my sewing machine back in, and what we're going to do is we're literally going to sew this binding around the neckline using about a, let's say, I don't know, a 3/8 inch seam allowance, because that's how much will then show. And I'm going to put a pin at the very base of the V too. So this first pin is the very base of my V. I'm going to go ahead and start right there. So I'm going to put this like this. So I'm literally going to start right here, and I'm just going to leave, I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so as we go along now, I am going to gently stretch the bias of the strip just a little bit to keep it from gaping away. So literally, I'm not going to stretch it a ton, but I just want to stretch it a little bit. And I'm just going to sew all the way around. When I get to my shoulder seams, I want to make sure these are pressed to the back. And I didn't clean finish the edges of this yet. The shoulder seams will be fine because they're cut on the bias, and fabric cut on the bias doesn't tend to, does not tend to fray as much. So we're gonna be okay in terms of fraying. I've worn this red dress, my original red dress with no seam finishes, and I've worn it a ton. And I've washed it a ton, and it's fine. So I'm just gonna leave those alone. If you want a clean finish, obviously clean finish before you put your neck finish on. Now as I get around to this neckline where it curves here, I'm just gonna go really slow and take my time so I can keep lining up the raw edges together. Also gently pulling the fabric like this. So I'm just carefully stitching this on. Okay, we're coming along the other side of the back here. Let me just get this, oh, let me just clip this thread out of the way. Okay. I'm really excited because now I have a new dress. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going here. I'm gonna make sure all my seam allowances are laying flat across where I sewed the strip. And now we're coming back down the other side of the front neckline. Like this. Okay. All right. All right, now let's look at what we have. All right, so I think you can see if I just lay it flat like this, you can see I've sewn all the way around. And because we've got open ends here, and I really want to make sure the knit strip, you know, folds nicely to the wrong side, I'm going to go ahead and press it. So I'm going to get my thing, and I'm going to use my ham because my ham has got a curved edge to it, and I think that will help me create a nice, you know, the curves around the neckline will be supported, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start at, you know, one edge, and I'm just going to press everything away from, you know, the seam. So I'm just pressing that all nice and neat. And I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to go all the way around like this. I'm just pressing the whole band away from the neckline. Like that. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is, starting over here, we're going to turn it to this side now. I'm going to press this down so that I'm going to pin in the ditch, right? Move this over here out of the way. Hi Cheryl, I am working with hand-dyed linen fabric, and everything is on the bias here. So that's why I'm really not worrying about the raw edges, because raw edges on bias really don't fray that much. So see what I'm doing here is I'm folding this around to the other side. And then I'm going to pin it in place. Hi Monica, you're in New York getting ready to find material to make your first dress pattern. It calls for a jersey or knit fabric. Do you have any recommendations for material? Love your videos, by the way. If you're in New York, if I were in New York, I would run right over to Metro Textiles. I don't know what their address is, but tell Kashi I said hello. He has a wonderful shop. It's off the main street though, so you have to find the address and you have to go up an elevator. But it's a really nice store. They have a lot of fabrics, and he has a $4 wall. So if you're in New York and you can stop by his shop, he has a lot of fabrics that he charges $4 for. And there's some really good ones in there. So in New York, I would go there. Trying to think of where else I would go. I mean, you can go to Mood, but Mood is expensive. I'm not as much of a fan of it as I used to be before Project Runway, because they've gotten kind of fancy and expensive. But they do have a lot of nice fabric, so Mood fabric is another option. And let's see, where else? I mean, there are a few stores I go into, and I really don't even remember what the names of them are, but they're always going out of business, and they're always has sales. So, you know, if you can get to the garment district and just sort of, you know, investigate, you probably can find some cool fabrics. I really love the way this finish looks. Hey Tana. Oh, it's rainy down in Central Florida and the temperature has dropped a smidge. Thank goodness. Woo! Well, when I got up this morning, I put on my long leggings because it was chilly. It was like 40 degrees this morning. And I mean, it's warmed up to 70, but I think we're definitely getting ready for fall now. All right, so again, I'm just going to pin this all the way around. This fabric, by the way, was dyed by my friend Nick Coleman of dragonflycreative.art on Instagram. He's very talented. I got to hang out with him when I was in Chattanooga last weekend, or the weekend before that, actually now. All right, so I am going to, right here on my shoulder seam, I'm going to go ahead and just trim a little of the seam allowances off along the neckline so I don't get a bump there. So I want it to be nice and smooth across the shoulder like that. So just trimming a little of the bulk away gets it to wrap around nicer where all the seam allowances are. You know, and again, I'm just gonna go all the way around. And by the way, I'm gonna finish the armhole like this too, the exact same way. And I'm not gonna worry about sewing my bias strip into a circle. I'm just going to overlap the edges, and I'll show you that in a minute when I finish this. So I've got it pinned all the way around. Okay, and if I just show you here, the neckline, see how it's pinned all the way around? So the next step is I'm going to sew, and I want to make sure my pins are all about 1/8 of an inch or so away from the raw edge of the bias strip, so I make sure I catch it everywhere. I think I'll be okay. So now I'm gonna bring this back over here, and I'm just gonna start stitching. And I'm going to turn it inside out again so I can sew inside the circle, actually. So let me just turn this dress inside out again. And let's sew. So I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to stitch really close to, you know, as close to right on top of the seam as I can possibly get here. Make that nice and sharp. I'm just going to take my time. That ivory thread is really going to show, so I need to do a really accurate job. I was going to search around for some pink, but I decided to be adventurous. So you can see how the thread is going to show right there. So if we sew right on the very bottom edge of the binding, it'll look okay. See? So again, I'm just going to take my time. Okay, now we're going around the back. Oops. My needle touched that pin a little bit. I hope I didn't traumatize it. I think it's okay. Oops, so we're almost done here. All right, now we're coming down the other side of the front neckline now. Okay. Oh, Tana says, I don't remember you mentioning those pins. What's special about them? These are Taylor Seville square head pins. And honestly, I'm using them because I'm still putting away all my cool tools from Kentucky. And my other pins are somewhere safe and sound for the moment. So they just have bigger heads. They're easy to grab. You know, I love all of the Taylor Seville pins because, you know, they're easy to get in and out of the fabric with these ribbed heads. And even though they're plastic, they don't melt. You can iron them. So I do like these pins. Okay, so now I'm going to get my pressing thing back over here. And let's give this a nice press. Oh, let me turn it right side out again. Hold on. Hey, Monica, are you sewing on the left side of the bias or the right side on the bias? Are you sewing? Okay, so I don't know what you mean by left or right side of the bias. This fabric, because it was hand dyed, I really can't tell the difference between the right and wrong sides. So I'm just going to give this a nice press, and then I'm going to sew the rest of the seam back up. So the reason why I want to use the ham is I kind of want to shape the neckline like this. So see, I'm just going to give it a nice press. And also, you know, encourage the curved shape of the neckline. You can see I did a pretty nice job with my stitching. I will give myself a gold star for that, because I think I'm pretty spot on here, which is nice, especially since I was using the white or ivory thread. It shows, but if it's sewn on accurately, we don't care that it shows because it looks nice. All right, so I've given that a nice press. So let's look at it now. All right, so right here, I'm really close to the edge in this one spot right here. I'm gonna make it brighter so you can see. See how close I am to the edge right here? And because that's a raw edge, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and treat that with a little fray check. Because right now, it's sewn on, and I really don't want it to, oops, I really don't want it to fray. So I'm just going to go ahead and treat this neckline edge where I'm really close to the raw edge with a little fray check. And I think that'll extend the life of it. Normally I will test my fabric to make sure it's not going to, you know, bleed or leave a little bit of a stain, but because this is hand-dyed fabric, even if it does leave a little bit of a blotch, like see this dark color right here, this is fray check. I'm not going to worry about it because it'll just look like a variation in the dye. I heard an urban legend that if you use an iron to dry your fray check, it dries softer, so that's what I'm doing. Monica says, oh, are you sewing on the left? Oh, you mean the left side of the dress fabric? the main fabric. So the main fabric of the dress, this is the right side of the dress. This is the wrong side of the dress, but you can see if you look closely here, you really can't tell the difference between the right and wrong side of this fabric because it's hand dyed. Like there really is no right or wrong side because it's linen and it's cross woven, so there's no difference in the weave of the fabric right or wrong either. All right, so I feel like fray checking that will keep that for a while nicely. If it starts to fall apart, I'll worry about that later, but for now it looks really nice there and it looks really nice there, and it's the same fabric. Yeah, I will tell you, it is very soft. I can't feel it, so I guess I'm happy with that on the inside of my neck. The back of my neck is where it got really close. So look, it's nice and soft. It's completely dry, and also you can't see, there's no stain either, so that worked out nice. All right, so now that I did that, the next step is I am going to finish sewing this. So again, I'm going to turn my dress back to wrong side out again. And I'm just going to put these edges back together. And I guess I can cut off, all of this extra binding right there. This is kind of embarrassing because my other dress that I wear all the time, I literally sewed the dress back together and I left the raw edges of the binding on the inside of the dress, and I never did anything to finish it. So that's how that has been living with me. But basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use one of my other favorite sewing tools, Scotch tape, and I'm going to tape. I just want to tape around the top like this to keep the edges of the binding even like this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to just stitch the seam underneath the neckline back together. And hopefully that will just go back together nicely. And actually I'm going to do it like this, starting over here. So from where I took it out, I'm just going to stitch right up straight through the binding now, like this. Let's see how that looks. Let me take out the Scotch tape. Okay. And then let's see. All right, let's see how that worked out. I'm just going to turn it to the right side again so I can see how it's looking. So I think that that's a pretty good match. Let me just trim this thread and this thread. And then let's give it a little press here. Okay. All right, so this is showing, I might have to fuss with it a little bit. I think what I want to do is see how the neckline looks on my body. So let me stick the dress back on and I'll show you how it looks. And then I might need to play with that a little bit. I don't know if I'm 100% happy with the way that came out, but let's look and see how it looks when it's being, you know, with my body filling it in. Let me just switch my view here. Okay. Yeah, I think I might want to play with it just a little bit. Oh, hey, RT Blades from Nashville. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I just finished my V neckline. And I'm mostly happy with it. I might fuss with it a little bit, but you can see it makes a nice finish, right? There's my neckline, all nice and finished. So now, what I'm gonna do, sorry, I'm stripping right in the middle of my live, but again, I have clothes on, so it's okay. All right, let me come back over here and show you. What I'm gonna do now is, doop, I am going to, oops, bring this back down here. And I think we're a little bit bright. Let me just darken this up slightly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, I've been wearing this dress. I wore this dress during my Precious Fabric video. So what I want to do here is, see the, oops, the neckline is pretty, I'm so sorry about that. I hit the wrong thing there. Sorry about that. The neckline, I mean, the armhole is a little bit ratty now because I've been wearing this. So see how it's all nice and bunched up for me, stressing the armhole out with my shoulder and my arm. So I'm going to go ahead and steam this back into shape. And then I'm going to trim some of this away where I traumatized it. Okay, and I'm going to do the other one. So I just want to show you, if you are working with a bias strip and you don't want to you know, take the time to figure out how long you need to make the strip, I'm just going to show you the way I'm going to do this. This is a circle. This armhole is a circle. There's no seam because it's bias and I got rid of the actual side seams, so there's no seam here under the arm, you know, to mark the side seam area. So again, I'm just ironing it here where I traumatized it by wearing it. Technically, I want to say it's usually not the best idea to traumatize your armholes before you finish them, so I don't recommend doing that like I did. So I'm just gonna rehab this edge a little bit. All right, so what we're gonna do is, oh, RT Blades loves the fabric. This fabric is hand-dyed fabric. My friend Nick dyed it from Dragonfly Creative, and I purchased it when I was at the Southeast Social Escape. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take this strip and I'm gonna start, like, I'm just gonna lay the armhole out here. So I know, like, somewhere over here is gonna be where the you know, where the base of the armhole is. So I am going to just cut this fabric square like this, and then I'm going to literally sort of position it so it's like in that underarm area. And this is the bottom layer, so I'm going to fold this up like 1/4 of an inch or so, and then I'm going to start stitching, and I'm going to use the same 3/8 inch seam allowance. And as I sew, I am going to gently pull the the bias strip to, you know, stretch it a little bit to help, you know, shape that armhole a little bit. So again, I'm going to put this down and stick my needle in there, and then see, I can gently pull. So what we're going to do is I'm literally going to, I'm not going to pull it yet because I don't need to really give it much shape under the arm. Basically, I'm going to start stitching. And as I come up from the base of the armhole, now I'm sort of in the front armhole here, I'm going to pull it a little bit to help take in any extra. And then we're just going to continue right around, gently pulling it a little bit. And I'm on my shoulder, so see, I want to make sure my shoulder seam stays flat like that to the back. So I'm paying attention to that. And again, I am going to cut just a little bit of this seam allowance away so it's not bulky in there. All right, so let's just sew this. Okay, now we're back on the back armhole. When I get to the very bottom of the armhole, I'm not going to pull it anymore. So now I'm underneath the arm, and I'm just going to one-to-one finish sewing this like this. And I'm going to overlap my start point just a little bit. Like this. And when I go over, I'm going to just cut this. So it's about, I don't know, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch past where my folded end was underneath there. Okay, just going to back tack a couple stitches, cut that. All right, so now let's look at our start stop here. So remember, I folded this edge under, right? So to make that stay nice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin that and I'm gonna just gonna pin it, and I'm gonna sew it down so it stays nice. So what I mean by that is I'm literally going to get this to lay square. Like this. I'm going to make sure I have all the seam allowances facing up and on the inside here, and then I'm going to just pin it like this. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to stick it under here, and I'm just going to stitch right through all the layers to hold that nicely in place for me. Like right along that folded edge. Now it won't flop around. So see what I did was I just sewed it like that. Okay, and then when I fold it to the wrong side, it'll just look like that when it's finished. And again, I'm going to press. So let's just press it. I'm going to turn it right side out again. Okay, and I'm going to press it, everything's straight up. So here's my seam allowance. I'm just going to turn it like this. I'm going to press it away from the armhole. And I'm just going to work my way around the entire armhole here. Oh, I think I sewed, or here's my problem. I see what my problem is. I sewed not right on my stitching when I overlap, so I'm going to take this out and it will release. That's why it's not lining up. Hold on one second. But if I take this one out, then it will line up. Oh, I already sewed it down. That's, oh, well, that'll be okay. You just get rid of that extra stitching right there. Okay. Okay, that's better. And this little bit right here where I'm not matched up. So when you start and stop, you want to make sure you're right on your stitching. Not like I just showed you, but just make sure it's nice and lined up there so when it, so you don't get it, like I was grabbing the fabric down here, I can see there's like one stitch. Where I caught it. There we go. All right, so now I can just iron that right out. All right. All right, so now that I've pressed it all the way, I'm basically going to finish it the exact same way I finished the neckline. Okay, I'm going to, fold it under, and I'm going to pin it in place, and then I'm just going to stitch in the ditch again. So again, I'm just going to fold it like this. You guys see what I'm doing? So this dress will be like a 3-season dress because it's a pretty closely woven linen. So it's I'll be able to wear it in the spring, but also I'll be able to wear it in the fall with a sweater, or with a long sleeve shirt underneath it. So I'll be able to get some good use out of this dress. I'm very excited about this. Just making sure I'm catching the, the strip on the inside as I pin. Clip this thread. Okay, so under here, I am going to clip this long overlap on the diagonal like this so it does not show. So when it's finished, it will look like that. Oops. All right, so all I have left to do is sew this down. And then I'll only have one more armhole to finish. Okay, so we have, if I show you the front now. Okay, so we've got the V-neck, and then we've got this armhole will be finished. Okay, so what I'm going to do to finish this is the same thing I did. Again, I'll start and stop over here. And again, I'm just going to stitch really close. I'm making sure that the seam allowance that I just wrapped this by a strip doesn't flip back out on the inside. Usually if it's doing that, you can feel the bulk of it flipping, so just make sure everything is nice and flat. Hi Alicia, Aisha, welcome. Oops. I want to get this a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. I'm finishing my armhole now. Okay, I must be coming close to the end here. All right, we're almost done. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to show you the difference between a finished armhole and an unfinished armhole. I'm just making sure I caught. Then, oh, all right, so I missed a piece right here. I'll fix that after. Oh, hi Dash Zap. No, this is hand-dyed linen. My friend Nick from Dragonfly Creative dyed it. So what I want to do now is I want to show you how much better the armhole is going to look when I have the binding on versus the raw edge. Because one of them is finished and one of them is not finished. So let's take a look at this and see. The fabric is sticking onto my outfit I have on underneath. All right, so what I want to show you here is, so here is the unfinished armhole right here, see? And then here is the finished armhole. So you can see that the finished armhole sorry, looks like this, nice and finished. And that's how the unfinished armhole looks. So I just wanted to show you that, you know, finishing the armhole does make a big difference. Yeah, so I'm going to finish this other armhole when I get off today, and then I will have a completed dress. I might fuss with my V-neck a little bit, but basically that's my new dress to wear to Houston for my bias class. And then this shirt, I'm hoping I didn't make a mistake. When I hemmed this one, I made it a little bit shorter because like all my shirts are like really long. So I wanted like a shorter shirt, but now I feel like I'm always pulling it down. So I hope that doesn't annoy me. We'll see. I'll be able to tell that as I wear it. All right, let me see. Hey, Pat, you're late. You're going to have to watch from the beginning. So to understand the raw edge on the binding bulk, not enough fabric. No, I cut them on the bias. So when I cut things on the bias, I don't worry about the raw edges because they really don't fray very much. And I can show you this dress. I'm going to take this off here. Just to prove my point. And you can see my embarrassing, messy thing here. Let me just show you. I'm going to switch my view. Okay, so let me just bring this down so I can show you. This dress, I have worn this many times. Many times. And what I want to show you is, if you look really close, look at how the edge of the inside of the neckline is not finished, right? It's raw, but it does a little fraying, but it doesn't come apart. So I usually never have trouble with my bias. And here's my shoulder seam, and you can see it frays a little bit, but it doesn't come apart. So I have washed and worn this many times, and I've also stretched the bejesus out of it to get it to go back to size after I shrunk it. So this is why, you know, I'm not, and look at how embarrassing this is. I left these tails in here. I've been wearing this dress with these tails. I never finished this. I never finished this long seam that runs down the length of the dress, because you can see that barely frayed. And that's after many washings. So that's why I'm not super concerned with the fabric fraying, you know, on the bias. So I'm just going to leave it. And it makes it less bulky if you don't finish the edge. So we'll see. And again, if it comes apart or if I have to make some, you know, what do I want to say? If I have to fix it, I will. I am going to fuss with the point of the V just to make it lay a little bit nicer, but I'm not going to finish the edges because I didn't need to on the other one. So that is my report for today. I am flying off. I have my alarm set for 5:30 tomorrow morning because I want to check into my Southwest flight for my 5:30 flight on Sunday, and then I'm blasting off to Houston. I'll be gone Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I get back, you know, late, like 6 o'clock in the early evening Wednesday. I'm going to plan on shooting a new Cool Tool and a new Fit Tip Tuesday for next week, so you'll have that while I'm gone. And then I'll be back next week, Fab Fit Friday, and we're going to make a thumb hole cuffs for this shirt next week. That's what we're going to be doing. Let's see. Oh, hi, Barbara. Oh, Barbara, I didn't see your message. But whatever it is, I'm happy you're here, and I'm sorry that I'm sorry you're here late because I'm going to be signing off in a minute. But you can watch the replay. Cheryl says, I had a silk top where the neckline fell apart, not sure why. Yeah, sometimes fabric is very delicate, and sometimes if you sew really close to the edge, it can you know, it can, you know, fray. So I'm not saying I'm not going to have to fix this, especially like where I got really close on that neckline. That's why I fray checked it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm going to just see what happens. But I am really happy with the way, you know, with the way the neckline came out. This is the inside view, like the inside view of it, you know. Anyway, so I'm very happy with it. It'll give me something new and fun to wear in Houston. Oh, Barbara says has a wonderful time. Well, thank you. And thank you guys for coming. I love having, you know, this time with you guys every week, and I'm really happy I'll be home next week before FabFit Friday, so I don't have to not have a FabFit Friday next week. So I'll see you guys next week. I'll tell you all the things that happen in Houston, and we'll make thumb hole cuffs. So that's what we're doing next week. All right, so I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining, and I will see you again soon. All right, bye-bye.